right. Welcome, everybody. Eric Milch here with Andy Guelcher, Bryan Armstrong, and Gray Scott. We have an awesome show for you today on the Dealer Teamwork webinar series. Just an awesome panelist group that we got here. Let me start up my screen. We'll share that as well. We'll get this going for you guys. A little bit of housekeeping as I do this. Everybody that is attending today will have access to all of the slides. They will get an on-demand link as well, and we will have this available for you at your disposal. So again, we got a great show for you today. 3 dealerships are going to share their winning success formulas. Again, Bryan Armstrong, Andy Guelcher, Gray Scott. A couple of quick introductions. Bryan is, besides an incredible and beautiful human being, he is an amazing operator and leader. Bryan, you took probably one of the lower tier stores, if that's fair to say, and you made it one of the tops in the nation. You've got 3 of the top Volkswagen stores in the country. Andy, you guys, just an amazing turnaround story as well for you guys at Mohawk, Honda, and Chevrolet. I'll let you talk a little bit about that as well, but you turned that around. I remember when we first started working with you guys, I don't even think you guys were at just under 300. You guys are doing well over 600 a month. And then Gray Scott, again, you guys, not a super progressive brand that you've got out there, especially in Chicago, but you guys have done some amazing things to be able to create the standing out with the brand and obviously connecting with your customers as well. And you guys, again, do a continuous successful job. So again, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for being here today. And let's dive right in. So our agenda today, it's packed. I'm not going to read through everything, but you can see we've got a ton of great topics here. Everything from digital retailing, video, using our human capital, and again, just some additional data stuff and all the typical stuff. And again, who knows with these 3 guys what's going to come out. So let's just jump into it. Let's start right off the bat with a real quick state of the industry. We've got obviously we might have some issues across the board, regardless of the brand, with regards to inventory resources being somewhat limited. Again, we're starting to see some incentives pull back. There are 7 manufacturers now that are not supporting the 84-month loans. There's 5 that still are. Some new price jumps, new pricing increases is helping improve the profits for the OEMs. And on average, I'm seeing across the board with some data from the Next Up, the dealers are probably running on average at about 78% capacity. Again, demand is trending up. New vehicle sales were down just slightly. They're only down 10% year over year for June. Great sign. And obviously used vehicle sales were up for the first week of June. And then used car pricing. I'd love to ask you guys as well. Let's just jump right into that. Do you agree with the fact that MMR is an unreliable measurement? And what are you seeing in the lanes, especially with some of those other companies like Vroom and CarMax, and obviously the biggest culprit of all with Carvana? What do you see happening there, guys?
Andy and Bryan, this is going to be on you guys. I don't get too involved on the buying side.
I don't think MMR is unreliable. I think it's a tool just like anything else that you have to take into consideration. But I think that it's becoming more and more relevant. And you got to consider that the pullback was kind of factored in, when these prices were adjusted. And as things are creeping back forward, it has to get caught up. So I don't think it's unreliable. I think it's adjusted, and you need to use it for what it is, and it's a tool. It can't be your Bible to buy cars by.
And I would kind of agree with that. The best thing about MMR is just that anytime you take in any used piece, you have to have an exit strategy, period. And that's the guide that you're going to, well, quite frankly, need to go by. But first and foremost, you're looking to retail every single piece you get.
All right. So let's just jump into this, guys, in terms of some of the key topics that are on everybody's mind. Andy, I'd like to start with you with regards to the digital retailing. So there's some common stats that are out there in terms of the customers saying that they want to do at least one or more of the steps online. How is this in line with what you guys are seeing, and especially with regards to the customer still wanting to sign the final document in store, or at least face to face? How does this fit into what you guys are experiencing?
I think that there's a lot of metrics within those that really need to be discussed. We developed a digital team to handle our Roadster leads. We have Roadster here as our digital retailing tool, and we had it pre-pandemic. And there's a lot of people that will stop at different points of the process and then come into the store. So while it's certainly speeding things up for a lot of customers, there's a whole group of people that might take the first 2 steps and come in, or take the first 4 steps and then come in. Just as long as they know where they're at in that process, I think is the most important. So I don't know about 89% wanting to find the signal document. A lot of times we're seeing people want to verify their decision and looking at the car, and they're fine to do the paperwork at home or us bring it to them. So it's there. I don't think there's a cut and dry answer to who wants to do what, but as long as you're offering some sort of digital retailing experience, even if it's very basic, you're going to have some success.
Bryan and Gray, have either one of you guys moved to this type of initiative? And if so, how is that faring out for you guys as well, especially within the culture of the store?
Well, we did, and it was something we've been talking about, and the pandemic really pushed it over the edge. Something I've been pushing for a couple of years, and I've actually experimented with several tools over the last couple for intermittent time frames. But we went with Muller Delivers. We started pushing the message, and to kind of mirror what Andy was saying, I think there's a large percentage that still want to come in and they still want to do that final paperwork. We find that most of our customers are getting through the point of almost like getting to the bill of sale with the full transparency and pricing and fees and taxes and add-ons. And then at that point, we don't necessarily have a digital team, but we'd have our internet sales team jump on and kind of finish it. And what we're finding is a lot of the people who go through that process, who choose delivery, they still want to obviously interact with us to make sure that they had the right inventory selected. Those who came in generally were buyers. I mean, our closing percentage during our delivery or our appointment only phase in Illinois was absolutely through the roof at about 75%.
Bryan, any take on this?
Well, we use it. It's really the most important thing about digital retailing in us, and it varied by market because we're in 4 very disparate markets. And I found that the Kansas City, the Midwest, was more prone to use the tool further along. The main point of digital retailing is really providing the transparency at the beginning of the process to build that relationship. And then more key probably is making sure that you dovetail and streamline to the brick and mortar, whether that experience takes place at their home or whether it takes place at the lot and in the showroom. You don't want to make them repeat steps. And that's where the customer really embraced it, in my opinion.
So one last question on this and we'll move on. In terms of the overall structure for the website, do you think this is finally going to be the catalyst that the industry needs to change the site platforms? Because I've said this for probably 2 years now as well. Just because we have a new widget and we bolt it onto the site, that doesn't mean it's a new solution. So, I mean, what's your take on that, Andy?
Yeah, I would agree. You're right. There's so many widgets that we've bolted onto sites over the years, and unless you actually pick up the hammer and swing it and use the tool, you're not going to get anything out of it. I just wanted to say something real quick about this actual tool. And I think what has to happen really is not so much for the customer, Eric, but for the dealers to see that this is not going to have a negative effect on their gross profit. And as it relates to us, I just looked at the numbers from this month so far, and our average finance PVR on these digital deals is $100 per car higher than our in-store PVR. That's in finance. So, a lot of people thought that they're going to give up their finance if they let a customer transact online. That's just not true. And I think once dealers start seeing that, this will become more accepted by the dealers, which will then force them and get them to utilize it.
Well, and I would agree with that on the point. We're at I look at this as kind of a crux because now that we've introduced this new paradigm to the consumer, if we now back off from that and think that things are going to return back to quote unquote normal, then you're going to lose all trust. You're going to allow third parties, and you see it in development and everything already, to intercede and continue to build that bad karma of the dealership, that bad stigma. So you better embrace it.
I think it's just going to become expected, Eric, that customers are going to want to have that level of transparency from the start. Whether it's a retention customer, it's a new customer, they're going to want to be able to see all that information up front that they can trust you as a dealership. Every time I've ever launched it, our conversions, our engagement rates are through the roof, 50, 60% of the people. And I've definitely been back and forth. I think it's definitely going to change the game, and I think dealers need to embrace it just from a transparent perspective.
No, I agree, Gray. I agree. I think the biggest thing that we're all hoping for, and we actually talked about this with James Klaus in one of our first webinars, was the fact that all these things are changing massively. Are they going to stick? Is it going to stick around, and is it going to just be a short-term fix, or are we finally going to make progress, within the industry and within the tools like this? Obviously, it remains to be seen, but I think that is, it's on us and people like yourselves, to be able to educate, like I said on the screen here, educate the culture, educate the staff, educate the customers, and really adopt new process. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the change. I've always wanted to be able to do this and have, simply a shopping cart type experience. But it's, who knows if this is the time, obviously, that's going to drive that. So let's talk about just the changes that are happening within our operations itself. Everybody is really latching on to the focus of streamlining and leveraging the intelligence that we have, and obviously putting the vendors, to the test, in terms of, being able to, weather through this storm. So, Bryan, talk a little bit about what you've done as well, just in terms of, how this change has affected you guys and what you've had to do to reevaluate. You guys did something crazy, and you didn't pull back your spends across the board. You just said, hey, let's stick with it. Talk about that.
Well, the important thing right now, you have to remember that there's a lot of situations going on out there in the world that we definitely didn't really change the spend, but we changed the message 100%, because we wanted to be able to, we always assume that the things that we know in the industry are common knowledge, and they're not. You guys, the OEM was amazing to come out with some of the programs they did with their VW pledge to allow people to go for 4 months with no payment. That gave us an inroad to be able to then reach out to the owner base, reach out to people that were in VCI loans and say, hey, did you know this is available? And by the way, we also, looking at your profile, it looks like you are in an upgrade opportunity, and be able to take advantage of 6 months of no payments or 4 months or whatever that may have been, in 0%. So utilizing the advertising spend to not so much be the traditional, hook to try and pull people in, but to rather to educate people as to what programs were available that they could take advantage of, and to be a helpmate to the buying public, I think was what contributed.
So, Gray, think of it like this as well. I mean, explain a little bit about your thought processes and how the group approached it. You guys had all this budget for your standard approach. Obviously, you pulled back some. How did that affect the decisions? What did you have to do to reevaluate when you started to come back?
Well, a lot of it is also just being in the market of Chicagoland, one of the most saturated competitive markets, where you might have an X dollar spend for AdWords that when every dealer starts, and knowing the dealers around me, I knew they cut off. They shut the spigots off. So it's like, okay, great. We're not doing that. But we can just drastically reduce our budget to still maintain a presence, but we've invested so much in our SEO and so much in our value and so much in our branding that we really relied on that when we lowered those PPC numbers, the spends, and our organic referral traffic went much higher than it had prior, because PPC is the first thing that you see. We also went with the messaging. We did a 3-part video series, and my mindset to get us through this was let the OEM, let the tier 2, which I had witnessed doing a fairly decent job as far as the messaging and the 90 days, and we're here, and ask about delivery from your dealers, and really focused on what we as a dealership were doing for our customers and our prospects. And so the first step that we did was our messages about COVID-19 response. And this is something that I launched, I believe the 14th or 15th, Illinois pulled all the kids from school. I think by like the 21st, it was a mandatory shelter in order in play. And so as soon as that hit, we knew that we were an essential business the following Monday, Tuesday. And I created a video of all the things that we were doing to make sure that you felt safe coming in our dealership if you needed to get a service appointment or exchange your vehicle. Then we went into a softer message about kind of, we know what you've been through. So we're playing the empathy, where initially it was, here's what we're doing. Everybody's scared. We want to minimize your risk, want to minimize ours, and make sure that we're here. Then we went into, okay, we had, and if you have the video, I'm sure you'll play it later. If not, you can add a link at the end. But we said, we know what you're going through, Chicagoland, e-learning. You're going through working from home, and we showed this in a video where we were now showing about our online process. So we're here for you online. We showed an example of what a Zoom meeting would look like with our finance office and our finance director. And then we followed that up with a piece about delivery that we're still running today.
Yeah, and kudos to all you guys. Yeah, Andy, talk a little bit about from the expense side of things as well. Well, how did you guys just deal with it? I mean, Brian and Gray, you guys are doing a great job of being super proactive as leaders and operators. Andy, I'm sure you guys are following suit. What was your mindset? How did you and Jeff approach it?
Yeah, well, the out of the gate was kind of scary because nobody knew what was going on. There was no, PPP program. There was no talk about any support or anything, and there really wasn't a lot from the manufacturers on like week one. That changed quickly. That changed very quickly, and General Motors came out with some incredible programs in, I believe, the second week, and Honda followed shortly thereafter. And it was just, it was unbelievable, the support that we got from them. But we had to make some tough decisions because we have a pretty big organization. And when you are going to see a 60%, what it was for us in April, decline in sales, that doesn't really support the system. So we navigated through it the best we could, made some changes, have put ourselves in the position to change everything kind of back to the way it was pre-pandemic, which has really helped us be able to move quickly and really put us in a place where in May we were 10% off our annual sales rate pre-pandemic. And in June, we're actually tracking what will be above, about 15% above where we were. So it's just, it's been good. We had to move quickly. We made some tough decisions, but it showed us some things that we needed to see, and we kept moving.
That's great. I think the key takeaway for all of you guys are the fact that you just did something. You made a decision. You experienced it, and you just acted on it. And I think that's the key differentiator for you guys as well.
Well, Eric, there's one thing too. I just want to comment, kind of piggyback with Andy, what you were saying. Is one of the things that we did here at the Honda stores is I started seeing national trends, East Coast, West Coast, at the beginning of March, and immediately started pulling back our budget 35, 40%, 50% in spend, which was perfect timing because by mid-March, everything had fallen off, which allowed us that ability to react accordingly in April with new messaging. We wound up dropping our total ad budget by about 40, 45%, and just really making sure that we fixated on the stuff that was converting from a granular level of in-market, which we'll get into in a little while.
Yeah, Andy, I want to jump back to you real quick on this. We can just touch on this. Brian, Gray, please jump in if you guys have had any involvement or you can contribute anything to this topic as well. But Andy, you guys did something really, really cool. I want to commend you guys for it. You ripped apart your navigation on your website. You can see a little snippet of it here, and you made it super simple. I've been talking about this for years as well. We don't need all this clutter in the navigation. You guys took it down to 4 buttons. So talk about that. I love that.
Yeah, Eric, we really did not want to listen to you, but we just had to, at some point. So, no, I mean, it was, again, this goes back to, all the stuff that we talked about. And you said the time comes where you have to take action. And when your back is literally against the wall and you have to make these decisions, you're forced to do things that, quite frankly, we should have been doing all along, but we weren't. But what this has done, surprise, surprise, has simplified the process for our customers. And because they weren't allowed to come into the dealership, you're sitting on your couch. Obviously, everybody's traffic went through the roof, when we started this because everybody was at home. So, to have a process and, a process in place, that is going to be simple and people can navigate and figure out things quickly, that's obviously going to lend itself to more transactions. So that's what we did, and that's what we've seen.
Yeah, Brian and Gray, you guys experimented with anything like that? Any type of process changes on the website? And then how did that spill over into your show process as well?
Nothing in the navigation, but started focusing on making sure that a lot of our, obviously we've always wanted to be mobile friendly. And the shift over the last 60 days has been a drastic increase in desktop traffic versus, mobile phone traffic, and make sure that the pages that we create were very desktop friendly in the fact of lots of video, lots of explanations. So when people came in, I think that they came in just very comfortable, ready to do business and go through the process.
For us, it was always, we're constantly looking at the sites, trying to improve. I really like that, though. I'm sitting here, I'm kind of looking at this, Andy. I've been scared to make that big of a jump, quite frankly. So, okay.
I'm going to implement that in the next week. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it going, okay. Well, crap.
Well, I'll tell you guys, I'll give everybody watching a little secret. One of the things that I love to do And it's real simple. Everybody can do it. And I'm happy to help with it. Just go to the analytics, find your pages, find the priority pages, look at what your traffic has been for the last 6 months, look at the behavior, and most importantly, look at the conversions from it. It's a very simple exercise. Everybody's going to be different. So it's not like Andy's letting the cat out of the bag or anything. Again, it goes back to what we just said. Now's the perfect time for everybody to try something different. There are no rules now, so just try something.
And Eric, to follow up with what you just said, also, if you have an opportunity to somehow lay a heat map like on your homepage, you can actually see where people are engaging the most on your homepage. If it's further down, raise it up to a higher eye level or one of the first buttons that you're prone to click on. And we played around with that on our homepage quite a few times.
Yeah. Any other changes too? I mean, what about, let's talk real quick and then we'll jump on. What about offsite stuff? How has that played into anything that you guys are doing? Is it still happening? Do you think it'll continue? Anybody got anything to add for that?
It's definitely going to continue. There's no way it doesn't continue. And I think that, Lexus and Mercedes-Benz and a lot of the Highlines had this right, and they just didn't put it out there enough. At least I didn't see it in their advertising campaign. But the way that people took to that, the only thing that really changed for us was, okay, I'm not so worried about how much it costs. I'm not so worried about what services I need done or how much this warranty might cost. What are you doing to keep me safe? Because that was the primary message in the media. So that was the first, comment or question from the customers in sales or service. Once we put a process in place to pick up and drop off cars for sales and service and a test drive process, it took off and it has not stopped. I mean, we've pulled back a little bit, but that to be able to offer that in service and be able to execute that more importantly in service has been critical for us. And people are just like, wait, what? No charge? It's something we should have been doing again all along that we just weren't doing. So it's been really good.
And that's,
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just going to say this is 100%. This is something that we've always had the capability to do, but we've always been reticent to implement, not us as a group, but the industry as a whole. And it's kind of funny because there are those that are out there, maybe even watching right now, that are saying, well, yeah, what do I need to do right now until things get back to normal? Guys, here's the reality. This is the new normal. So, yeah.
Yeah, and delivery for us is here to stay. It's been an ongoing battle for me to get our management and operations operator to essentially trust the process that they'll make more money. And every one of our deliveries have generated better revenue than those who come into the dealership. People just appreciate the service. They're not going to be so fixated on that bottom price because you're coming to them. And that's something that both stores are going to continue to push with various messaging and convenience. I think this is the new normal. I think having things delivered to your door is the new normal, whether it's cars, dry cleaning, whatever it might be. We've changed. Things are different.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. All right, let's jump into a few more things as well. Gray, you mentioned it before. Let's jump into a couple of quick examples. You touched on it a little bit, but the messaging and especially the whole thing. You mentioned Chicagoland, real saturated market, competitive. But let's just take a real quick look here. At one of these examples that you gave.
When you shop online and complete our contactless purchase option, we will deliver a clean, sanitized, and ready-to-drive vehicle to your home. The excitement is real. Muller delivers it here for you, offering contactless delivery on your terms. Start the process today at MullerDelivers.com and experience the new way to buy a car.
That's great. Let's see. We have one more here. Let's see if this one's
all right. So this is a good kind of fix. So this is right when this all broke out that I spoke about.
40 years, and we will continue to do so. Jeff Harris here, General Manager of Muller Honda in Highland Park. I want you to feel comfortable and assured our store is taking your health, safety, and well-being to the highest regard. We are actively practicing social distancing and CDC sanitation best practices. With hand sanitizer, disinfectant spray, wipes, gloves, and masks for your comfort and visits. For service, we have coverings for your car and sanitize it before returning to you. We are here for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with sale being by appointment only. We will get through these tough times together, Chicagoland. We are here for you. See all we're doing at www.muller-honda.com.
Great job, Gray. And I think regardless of what anybody's, personal opinions are, your notions, your political bias, doesn't even matter. That speaks to me in terms of from a customer standpoint, just saying, hey, you know what? That they addressed everything, so great job with that. What I want to know is how quickly did you guys turn that around?
48 hours.
Wow.
So you got to remember, as companies were panicking and sending people home, there were videographers being laid off and furloughed left and right. This is a gentleman I've worked with in the past. He does a great job. Gave him a call, said, hey, do you feel comfortable coming in the dealership? He said, sure. I said, look, I've got N95s you can wear, whatever you need. He came in, shot the live video. To be quite frank, it's going to blow your mind. I paid less than $700 for that and had it live within 48 hours.
Nice job. Andy, now you guys are doing a really good job as well in terms of standing out with those live videos that you guys are doing. Those are great. That's you guys are doing that literally every day, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, that was something we had like a 30-second conversation about how we could continue to help and focus on the community. And obviously, as most retail car people know, your daily food budget is probably $6,000 for the store, as far as what people spend on takeout and all that stuff. So we thought, hey, you know what? Let's go out. Let's get our social media team on local restaurants because they really need the help right now. And let's give away a $50 gift certificate to maybe a person who could use a $50 gift certificate right now. The engagement on those videos is outrageous. I was like blown away. 7, 8, 10,000 views on consistently. So just doing something small, again, it goes back to what we were talking about. Just doing something made the difference, and it was awesome.
Yeah, really good job with that. Bryan, how about you? You guys sticking with video with anything else? And
Well, obviously, that's, one of the important things that we found is that we brand ourselves, we're a local business, guys. We're a local community-based business in whatever market we are. So why are you going to identify yourself as part of your brand, even though that's an important piece to who you are? But remember, these are real people that live and work in your community. So try to get that message out constantly. So
I think and as a business here, I think it's so important for us in a big business that has always carried this bizarre stigma, not really that bizarre, we did it to ourselves. Being involved with the community is so important. And when you think about what the pandemic has done, whether it's been in local neighborhood Facebook groups, online, the community, it's really become kind of helping each other out any way that we possibly can. So when this big business dealership decides to do something for the community on a regular basis, it spreads tenfold. And right now I'm actually working on a proposal where I'm going to try and put something together where perhaps we give away a car and it's open to the community where they can nominate their local business to receive this free vehicle. A lot of businesses have had to pivot to delivery service that never had the fleet, they never had vehicles, they never even had it in their agenda. So this is an opportunity for a business that had to pivot to actually have a company vehicle do exceptionally well in the community. When you think about it, it's minimum for a dealership. And then, kind of do a 3 to 4 week nomination period followed by a 4-week voting period. And then at that point, have some kind of a presentation. Haven't done it yet, but I'm expecting a pretty good engagement level. I'm going to open it hopefully statewide. And it's going to be, helping a business succeed in these trying times. Because a lot of these restaurants and a lot of these mom and pop boutiques and stores, they're not going to make it or they're barely making it. And that's a way for us to know that we care. Deeper than just a $500, here's a $500 gift card. And I love that idea. But I'm saying this is something that's long term. This is, hey, we want to help you out. Then just imagine the residual on that. Sure. Whether it's from people that interact with the business, the community. Wow, those guys gave that car to that small business. We've been shopping there for 15 years, whatever it might be.
Smart move. Let's jump into some of the other things just too. Like we've got on screen here for using the data. Anybody want to jump in here in terms of what how you've been trying to use, whether it's CRM data, inventory data, competitive data. What's making the difference for you with regards to the decision-making processes that you're making as well? Andy?
We've been really focused on tightening up our turn, both new and used, and I think that has served us really well. We were heavy, I think is the right word, at Honda going into the pandemic on the new side, and we were a little bit light at General Motors, as were a lot of General Motors dealers because of the strike that just ended. And that certainly hasn't helped new car inventory, but on the used car side, that has really helped us continue to turn those cars. And again, when you were essentially paying a premium right now, which most people are, to replace some of those cars, it makes it a lot more digestible when you have it in such a rapid turn. So that really tight turn, and we're down working about on a 30-day turn and trying to match the inventory to 30-day turns. And that's not easy to do, but we're trying to do it and work toward it. And that has really, really helped us also realize larger gross profits too. Great job.
Bryan, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny when we talk now about using data to predict as stuff. If you're not looking at it daily, you're an idiot. I mean, you should look at data one time a month when you get some glorified reports and sit there and say, okay, this is what's going to be happening. Why are you looking in the rearview mirror to predict the future? Yes, the behaviors that we see do predict the future, but by the time you look at a 30-day window, you're missing the minute curves that are the predictive portion of that, in my opinion. So look at your stuff daily.
Yeah, and we're really excited. We're really excited about the opportunity to, not only to bring to you guys, but what we've been working on as well here at Dealer Teamwork, to be able to leverage the massive amounts of data that we're able to pull from the millions of campaigns that we're consistently running as well. We've got such a stockpile of data too. So eventually the trend will be, you're not even going to need to really log into the MPOP to actually manage the campaigns. It's going to be driven obviously by the team and obviously by the automation, but more importantly, the access that you have to the data in real time within the MPOP. So you go from actually building campaigns to just responding to the data. So that's how our response is well. And we're looking forward to the feedback that you guys can give us as well. Gray, anything else you want to add to the data that you guys are trying to rely on?
I mean, it's the same. I look at it on a daily, every couple day basis for both stores, and I even look at it across just the region as a whole. Just being as finicky as Chicagoland is, my store closest to the city through this pandemic has had a vastly different success rate than, say, my store right on the Wisconsin border. So just being ahead of what's in front of you, looking at, you can't look at it once a month. Like you said, it's looking in the rearview mirror and it's already passed.
Absolutely. So there's so many different ways, obviously, to leverage that. And again, you guys are ahead of the curve, at least not only with your decision-making abilities, but the processes that you're able to put in. And I think that's a great takeaway for everybody as well. Again, I had to throw this up. I have to comment. I don't know what the hell these people are doing in the car. Notice they got the VR units on their head. So again, Bryan, I know you really wanted to talk about the scaling the human capital as well. In terms of what people are doing, and I love the phrase that you use in terms of just quarantine queries. But again, we've got there's some interesting behaviors that are happening, and again, in terms of will the buyers return, like you said. But I really want to end on a strong note here with regards to your take on this. Again, just in terms of you guys made that decision, like we said earlier, in terms of not pulling back the spend. And again, we know there's all this activity that's going on out there in terms of, how much more is this, can this change? And obviously, can this change in favor of the consumer? And the one that I really wanted to stand out and point out on the bottom here is that 66% of all automotive calls that are generated by search engine activity actually come from paid search. And again, that stems from a little bit more, obviously, the relevance of the ads, obviously the call extensions, and obviously the convenience that it's offering. What is your take in terms of again, what do you think will happen again with the consumer behavior in terms of what what are they truly looking for, and how do you think you guys are going to be prepared to go through this next wave, whether it's greater threat from the virus itself, economic impact, inventory levels? What's your take on that, Andy?
Well, to let you know where Jeff and I stand, we're building a 75,000 square foot Chevrolet dealership. So that's where we stand on it. So I think that, experience is going to be huge, and you have to be able to deliver on that experience and do what you say you're going to do with the consumer. This has taught us a lot about personal brand. I think Gray said it, about just really zeroing in on that and not paying as much attention to tier 1 and tier 2 and making it about you. And this has made every dealer that has even dabbled in this a lot better at their personal brand. And if you can tie that in to your retail story, whether it's online or in person or however it's going to happen, and have the experiences and have the facilities to back that up, it's going to be a recipe for success. Retail, as we know it, is not going to go away. It's going to change. And if we are willing and able to adapt to the changes, will be successful. I really don't think there's any other way to say it.
You know, and I think
Go ahead, Greg.
I think that people are going to continue to, as you were saying, Andy, come into the dealership, wrap up the process, and as we get vaccines and people feel more comfortable again exiting their homes, they're going to come back to the dealership. But I truly believe the doing more online, doing more by phone, sending me videos, send me some walk around, send me some information, getting more upfront before they walk in is here to stay. I don't think that's going to shy away anytime soon. I think your younger population, it's interesting. I think some of them who've already bought their first car is definitely, they're doing more on the phone as well. Some of the young ones buying their first car, I found actually wanting to come in and they're not so concerned about the virus itself. But I do think that more is going to be done outside this store as in the store from the past.
Bryan, you do such a good job from a leadership standpoint. And I know you're so big on accountability. Yeah, and keep in mind, these 3 stats on the screen, guys, this is pre-pandemic. So my whole focus here is this should change significantly. You know, how do you see this playing into an already solid operation that you have, Bryan, in terms of driving that focus?
Well, here's the deal. You've got to get more comfortable with AI. You've got to get more comfortable with automation. You've got to be able to relinquish the control of some of the minutia that will otherwise take your day. We need to focus more in on our people with better training and get to the point, offer to help our customers. Every one of these people that are on here are calling or clicking with intent. So quit with the BS. If they knew before they clicked or called that they could come in for a test drive. They knew that was a possibility. I can do that. So they're obviously calling for something else. They're clicking for something else. Look to the intent, look to be able, because here's what's going to happen is that they will come back to the dealership, but we've introduced this whole new paradigm that is now going to be part of their vetting process of which dealership they go to. And only through the transparency and only by embracing a help first, sell later type mentality are you going to win.
Nice, and don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask on the phone. Train your staff on how to ask. Mrs. Jones, this is wonderful. You're coming in for the 2020 Accord EXL. How would you like to do this transaction? Are you looking to come in? Are you looking for us to handle this by conference and put it in there, put the ball in their court? Don't be afraid to ask. And it's amazing when you would think, oh, we're giving them more freedom and flexibility. Many will reply back, oh, I'll come in. You know, the by appointment only was kind of great for us in Illinois. Our closing percentages were through the roof, and a manager touched nearly 90% of everybody that came in. Has a huge effect on the end result, those manager TOs, especially in these times.
Great point, Greg.
And you know, that's one of the things. So as the stores got closed down, as we've got some of these people, we had management team that were still coming into the dealership or working remotely or whatever, and they were still boarding car deals for our salespeople that maybe because they no longer had access to daycare, they had to be at home and they couldn't come in. That our customers that needed to, you know, get their car in for service because they were emergency medical personnel or they were, you know, they weren't able to come in themselves. So to be able to have top tier leadership jump in and do whatever was necessary, to your point, Gray, touch that customer, touch your employee at every single point and be there to help change the attitude. Because then as soon as people realize that you care more about them than you care about their money, then they'll gladly part with their money. And the salesman's money is their time. They will give up time to be able to do what's more when they know that your primary focus is them. It's just.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I do need to say something to that. Just this is a little bit off topic, but one of the things that we learned that was absolutely incredible was due to the size of our organization, a lot of our people really never had a chance to really truly shine because we're siloed pretty well. It was amazing to me how many people stepped up without being asked and the changes they were willing to go through and the things they were willing to deal with and how hard they were willing to work through this. We saw things in our people that we would have otherwise never, ever seen. And it really showed us who our core and what our culture was all about. And that was one of the best things that came out of this by far.
Well, and you know what? I would absolutely agree with that, Andy, because it's one thing. So Jeff Davis, the dealer principal, Tom Watkins, great people, incredible vision, very supportive. Long have embraced this servitude selling. That's been one of the key foundations of my career, is the servitude selling. But to really take it to the next level and be that servanthood leadership, to be able to show, and to your point, it's so cool to see that reciprocated by just in ways that you would never, ever predict.
And it's interesting with two stores with two very different styles, seeing that servant leadership, how it affects the overall success of the store.
Yeah, great stuff, Bryan. I appreciate you sharing that. I know it's, this is obviously a tough time for everybody, but I love your approach when we were talking earlier this week, just in terms of how you are approaching it. Again, given your personal situation, and the state of that and how that affects the way you approach it. And I'm sure it's reaching, far and wide for all of us. But I think, that's like you said too, it's changing the way we're approaching just the sympathy and empathy element of the experience as well. And I think, hopefully that goodness will continue to shine through. I know people's state of minds are a little bit off kilter at times, but again, this is an opportunity to hopefully reconnect and just give the leadership and opportunities that everybody, like you said, Andy, there's an opportunity for everyone to shine right now. Again, no rules, obviously, different standards. So, we don't have to follow the same type of approaches that we did, and there's an opportunity for everyone. Again, guys, great feedback from you guys. Great to see you guys. I'm happy to see the success. Appreciate you sharing that. If we do have questions from the audience, I will share those as well. We'll get those, if we do have any additional ones that we didn't touch on. We touched on quite a few items already throughout. There's the last piece there for you. Just again, like I said, the personal challenges. Again, thank you guys, everybody. We appreciate you coming in. A little bit of a lag on my end. My apologies. We do have an amazing dealership playbook that we've created. If you haven't seen it, we'll share that link out as well in terms of from the presentation. But again, we've got a ton of resources that not only like these guys have shared, but additional checklists as well for everybody. We'll be able to, we'll get this out to everybody very, very soon. I got some great takeaways as well. We'll share those in a recap. But again, very simply, everybody watching, again, just, do something. There's no rules. Don't be afraid with the website changes. There's so many different offsite activities. Again, what are the customers saying? Keep me safe. Andy, I love your idea of sharing, supporting the local restaurants, tightening up turn. Again, experience is key, zeroing in on the brand. Bryan added in automation. Don't give up, and don't be afraid to give up control. We need better training, understand their intent, and lastly, just the individual leadership opportunities. Ask better questions and just drive the change that's needed. Again, guys, I'll leave you guys with one last thought. Gray, if you want to kick it off, we'll end on that. But one last departing thought.
Embrace the change if you haven't. The shopper has certainly changed. Our processes have changed, and the way that we approach retail has changed. And those, I feel very strongly, that aren't adopting and adapting to it, they're going to be left behind. And there's several people in my market that I see that are already seeing kind of the effects of that. And when it comes to advertising, I can't stress enough just how important video is to connect emotionally as well as from a value perspective. And don't be afraid to try different channels of video dissemination that you may not be used to. And dial it in, get as granular as you can.
Sure. Bryan?
You know what, for me, it probably is a little more personal. The reality of it is, so many of you may remember whatever, but just 3 years ago, I was at Cleveland Clinic with my wife. And so we've been living on borrowed time since then. So this is very, very real to me because she's an at-risk person. So every single day when I come into a dealership, every single moment, I want to make something better for my customers, better for my employees, better for my salesmen. Make it better than you found it. And don't take anything for granted. I understand fear. I understand uncertainty, but you know what? I also know hope. And I know that caring about other people will pay you bigger dividends than anything else.
Great message, Bryan. Thank you. Andy?
I live by who do you want to become and what price are you willing to pay to get there? Being adaptable through this, discount the pandemic for a second, but being adaptable always, being able to change quickly, listening to your people, listening to your partners, accepting feedback, both good and bad, and being able to use that to become better and truly become better is a game changer. So just continue to listen to what the customers are asking for, listen to your people, accept both types of feedback, and it's going to be what you make it. No matter what the economy does, no matter what anything outside happens, it's going to be what we make it as individuals and as leaders. And that's the point now and forever. So that's it. Great
stuff. Well, it's a privilege and an honor to know all of you guys, count you as friends. You guys are the great examples of who is leading the charge to change the industry, obviously help customers, but more importantly, again, just helping all the other people around you and the people that you lead. So kudos to all guys. Congrats on your success. We thank you for your support at Dealer Teamwork as well. And we'll end on that note. Again, thank you guys for the time. We appreciate breaking away from your busy days. Keep up the success and close out the rest of the month as best as you can. Okay?
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Eric.
Appreciate it.
Guys.
Thank you very much. Great job.
Bye.